Hi, everybody. Welcome back. PDPreps Podcast coming to episode 39. So you said, Keenan, before we started here? Is that where we're at?
I think so. I think it's 39.
Man, approaching the big 4-0 already. Kind of crazy. March 13th coming your guys' way. It's a Wednesday around 11 o'clock. We are going to be covering a lot of stuff in this pod, but hopefully we can keep it a bit tighter, I think, than usual. Not as we'll be talking about the ending of the winter sports season, kind of how NorCal playoffs and such all wrapped up. Now that was almost like a week and a half ago now for most of those sports, but talking about how the winter sports kind of wrapped up, looking at some of the big storylines that kind of came out of NorCal's, how again, if you're, watching this, I'm sure that how teams fared, but just kind of, a bit more insight into, some of those performances kind of down the stretch. And then looking at our final basketball rankings of the year too, kind of seeing how everyone shook out on the local scene, and then a little touch on kind of the early beginnings of the spring sports season. So, Keenan, it is sunny outside. It is like 65 degrees. Winter no more. We are here into spring. Could not be more excited about it. But what a fun end to the winter sports season, though, I will say.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, we say it every year, but it's always super crazy how fast the each season goes, right? And the fact that we're now getting to the 60-degree weather where games are starting at 3:30, 4 p.m. instead of 7:30 p.m. at night. It's going to take a minute to get used to, we're excited. We're always excited for softball, baseball, track, all these sports coming up in spring. We have a lot of talented athletes competing in the spring sports. So super pumped to get it going.
No more rain. Sunshine is here.
Don't say that, Gus. And we saw what happened last year. Don't say that.
Knocking on wood. That's true. Knocking on wood. Everything looks good though. Right now, I think we're gonna be heading out to some baseball, softball games here in the next couple of weeks. Have some spring sport previews coming out your way. Some of those have been a bit delayed just because of how long the winter sports season went, but it's always a good thing, right? A long season means that you have a lot of teams doing well and have a long season. So let's jump right into it. I think we're going to start with girls basketball because I think those probably girls basketball probably had the two biggest I'd say local stories from NorCal's, and that was Cardinal Newman and Maria Carrillo, both making impressive runs in their own right. Cardinal Newman wins the NCS Open Division title. Huge accomplishment for that program. Again, probably up there with their state title back in 2015. Beating some of the top teams in the state. Newman got up to, I think, as high as 21 or 22 or something like that, like in the national or, in SB Live's national rankings. They were looking like, again, one of the best teams that they've ever had, one of the best teams in Northern California. And again, I think, our last pod, it was right before NorCal started, and we talked about Newman getting the 4 seed, which I think both of us were a bit surprised about. But yeah, again, it kind of, it looks like the seeding committee again, was pretty on with their seedings, because Folsom, the number 5 seeded team that Newman had actually beaten a couple weeks before, a month and a half before, comes to Santa Rosa and upsets the Cardinals. It was a really great game. I mean, I know that you were there. It was definitely not Newman's sharpest game of the year.
No.
But definitely a very competitive and a high level excuse me, and a high level girls basketball game. But you were there. Kind of a bit of a disappointing end, I'd say, for the season. But I mean, again, still nothing I'd say for Newman to hang their heads over. I mean, just some really great heights that they reached this year. But I don't know, what was the scene like kind of at that game, after that game? I don't know, how was Newman kind of reacting to, I guess, that upset loss, at Folsom?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, I mean, for obvious reasons, I mean, they were pretty upset. Obviously, you beat a team once already in the year, and that was Brazilian superstar Thaisa's first game was against Folsom as well, in the regular season contest, and just wasn't Newman's sharpest shooting night. I mean, they scored 3 points in the second quarter. Fortunately for them, Folsom scored 7, I think. So it was still super close at halftime. Just was not the greatest night for for Newman as offensively, and Folsom just hit the shots they needed to shoot, or they hit the shots that they needed to make. And yeah, they ended up winning. I know. I know when we looked at the brackets last, I know Newman was super excited, potentially getting a shot at the top seed midi, seeing Thaisa go at it with Welichko and Chelly and Kate Schott and everything like that. And, to their credit, Folsom gave midi one heck of a run in the second round as well. So, it was, yeah, I would say, it's interesting the fact that that Newman won the open section title for the first time in their history, and I think next year I think next year, now that they've won that title and now that they've gotten to the NorCals and had a really really good team, I think next year it's going to be all about business. You've reached that experience, you've had that experience now, of getting upset. Now next year it might as well be all about business for that Newman girls team. But yeah, regardless, I mean, well, we know what they've done in league play for the last decade or so.
Yeah.
And winning the state title, like you said, 2014. I think that was Division 4, because the open wasn't hadn't been made yet. I believe that was like D4, I think,
something like that,
back then, something like that. And so for them to be the best of the best and the cream of the crop, especially representing Sonoma County pretty well, it's good to see. And I think their program's only going to get stronger in the next year, couple of years, things like that, because head coach Monica Myrtle just knows how to put her team together. So, yeah, great historical year for the Newman girls program. But yeah, came to an unfortunate loss there in the NorCal opener.
Yeah, and it would have been interesting to kind of look at to kind of look and see how Newman might have fared, maybe if they hadn't played a team that they had played before, if they had gotten that 3 seed or something, if Clovis West hadn't bumped them out of that, of a 2 or 3 seed or something like that. But yeah, I mean, again, it is always hard to beat a good quality team like Folsom, twice in a year. And again, that first game that they played, Newman really, I mean, won that game. This is back in January, like you said, Tissa's first game, but I mean, they really won that game because of how Tissa played late. I mean, I think she scored the last 8 points and they won by 8. I think they held Folsom scoreless for the last 4 minutes of the game. And that's how they won. So Folsom obviously, watched the tape, made some adjustments. And I know that just kind of, following your game coverage from that, they went on a big run, I think, to open the third or the fourth quarter or something like that. Yeah.
It was like a 14-15-0 run. Yeah, it was crazy.
Flipped the game on its head. And like you said, too, Newman just wasn't shooting the ball, like they normally do. So, just, recipe for, for season ending loss. So, and it happens, I mean, you don't bring your A game against, a good team, and, that can definitely happen. So it will be interesting, I will say, to kind of watch this Newman team going forward. I think I had tweeted out, like, they're just going to get better, next year. And, that still could be true. But then, kind of going through their roster, like all the seniors they've graduated. I mean, Kata Angelo, Leah Martinez, Leah Moritzen, they have, Janelle Pena is leaving, Natalie Rossetti, not like, some of those are, obviously all very good players, maybe not their star players like Tissa or Kate, but like that depth was, I think, a huge part of why they were so successful, is having, senior, veteran talented players who knew the system, who know how to play, who know how to win. And having those, those players gone, those are some big pieces to replace. But, to your point too, Monica does a great job of, building her teams and, building winning teams. So, I have no doubt that they'll be kind of back on the NCS, at the very least, the NCS Open stage next year.
Yeah.
And we'll see what they can do from there. But yeah, I mean, again, great season for Newman. But yeah, I mean, I think the story too that a lot of people were really captivated by was the Maria Carrillo girls too. A team that we've covered, pretty extensively this year. Obviously, they their head coach, Jeff Paul passed away. Just right before the regular season ended. Definitely, some tough, a tough thing for a team to go through. And, they really kind of rallied around, just the team and, played for coach. And I mean, they had a really great run through the NorCal division. Was it Division II playoffs, I believe it was. Yeah. Made it all the way to was it the regional finals, I want to say?
Regional semifinals.
Regional semifinals, that's right. Yep. And they ultimately lost to Colfax, which turned out to be the runner-up in that division. So
the state runner-up, yeah.
State runner-up, yes, true. But yeah, I mean, really awesome run. I mean, they had to, they went on the road for all 3 games. Nowhere close either. I mean, Monte Vista, I believe, is down in San Jose. Branham, I think, was also down in the South Bay, and then Colfax was. Colfax was.
Colfax is on the way to Tahoe, man.
That was
all the way up there.
And that was a bizarre game too because they had to play at like 11 a.m. right because there's a storm coming.
2 p.m. It was 2 p.m. But still.
Yeah. Weird timing, far off location. I mean, total road warriors, Korea was. But yeah, I mean, again, just ultimately, actually, in that regional final game, it was close. I mean, I think, they're playing, in a hostile gym, weird timing, far away location. And they were really hanging tough with Colfax and then just really tough. But, Lena Garaskis, their star forward, hurt her knee, left the game, and then didn't come back. And I think Colfax finished the game out, with a pretty strong run to take the win. But I mean, Korea, though, we should say too, during this run, I mean, they upset the number 1 seed Branham, on the road in the second round. I mean, just a very special run for them. I think that, last time that we had talked, they had just lost the NCS Division 2-3 title. Three title to Marin Catholic, and that was the first time that they had ever even been in an NCS title game. And then, to go from that to going on the super deep run, in NorCal's, really, really cool story for Maria Carrillo as well. Just a team that we've been following this year, and just a good group of good group of girls, fun head coach or fun, young head coach and Kylie Oden. I think if she sticks around for a while, she could be, like one of these kind of, young up and coming coaches, that we talk about. But yeah, I mean, just a really great season for Maria Carrillo. Just one win away from making a trip up or 2 wins away, for making a trip to Sacramento, which would have been really an awesome experience for them too. But definitely some good things to build on, I'd say, for this Korea team in the next couple of years going forward. Yeah,
totally. And kind of like Newman, they are losing a bunch of very impactful seniors, right? I mean, Lena's graduating. I think Jill Ebner, their other post player, she's graduating as well. But you go back to that Colfax game. I mean, they finished the first half on an 11-0 run to tie it going into halftime, and I truly think that had Lena not gotten injured within the first 20 seconds of the second half, they could have had a really good shot to win that game. So yeah, I mean, Maria Carrillo, dream season for them. Doing it for the late head coach Jeff Paul. I mean, you can't really ask for anything more from those girls, considering that what they went through this year. Yeah. But just an awesome run to follow. Obviously, Gus, you and I couldn't make it out to San Jose or Colfax or anything. But quick note about that Colfax game, like you mentioned, Kylie Oden, she was telling me that because there was a blizzard, nobody had anything better to do, so they all packed the gym. So it was literally the town of Colfax against Maria Carrillo, which is pretty crazy. And it looked like it. I was watching it on the stream, but yeah, incredible season for Maria Carrillo. No doubt about it, and looking forward to seeing what they do in the next couple of years for sure.
Yeah, and actually not as much senior talent graduating as Newman. I mean, so they, outside of Lena and Jill, who again are 2 very key players. I think Lena was the defensive player of the year this year in the NBL Oak. Outside of that, everyone's come back. A bunch of sophomores, a bunch of juniors, a couple of freshmen. So young team that will be looking to build on this and could be in line to again have another good section level, I'd say, season next year. And who knows, if they perform well enough in the section playoffs, they could find themselves back in this position. So
totally.
We'll see going forward. But other 2 girls teams, I guess, to touch on real quickly, though, but Justin Siena and Rio Lindo Adventist Academy out of Healdsburg, both knocked out in the first round. Justin had a really tough draw. They were the 15 seed, I want to say, in Division 3, had to hit the road, go all the way down down to Fresno, I think, for their first game, for the first round game. And then Rio Linda, same thing. They had to travel all the way up north up to Weed, where they lost to the top seed, Weed, who actually ended up, going off, I think, to win the Division 6 NorCal title too. So, again, great seasons for both of those teams too. Just tough draws in the first round, and that can be the end of your season sometimes. So, definitely expect Justin to make another good run next year with some of those really top players that they have coming back too. So, an interesting note too. So I was going through this. I was doing this before we started, but I think last week and the week before we've talked a lot about competitive equity and how that kind of helps you and hurts you, at the state level. And it was interesting because I was going through the 6 state winners in each division for boys and girls basketball, and very few of them actually were section title winners. So out of the six teams that won girls or state titles for girls, so in open division it was Etiwanda, which beat Archbishop Mitty, who was ranked number 1 in the nation heading into that game, and Etiwanda just kind of dominated them, totally dominated them. I mean, led by 24 at one point. Like I've seen a report that Etiwanda has been they had been working on putting in this zone press defense, kind of in secret all season, where they had been practicing it, but they had literally never used it in a game up until the Mitty game, and they were saving it for that Mitty game. And it worked because Mitty, did not look like Mitty that we know. But anyway, out of the 6 teams that won girls titles, Etiwanda was the only one that actually won their section, and they won the Southern Section Open Division. So, this kind of speaks to that other side of the coin of competitive equity of, it punishes winners, it punishes section winners. And, there was, even on the boys side, out of the 6 teams that won state titles, 3 of them were section winners. So, 50%, but still. So this is the whole thing. It's like, yes, it opens the door, it opens the door for more teams to be able to win or to be able to win state titles. But, then again, it's like, you're sort of punishing, some of these teams that win, you're bumping them up, into higher divisions where, technically they are playing more teams that, that are more equal in competition, but, it also makes the road to winning a state title, that much harder. So just an interesting, little data point that I had kind of, found out there. But that's a fantastic point. I mean, I didn't realize that, to be completely honest with you, but it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. Can I give a shout out though? I want to give a shout out to the girls D4 state champion St. Bernard's out of Eureka and head coach Matt Tomlin, who's also their head football coach. It's built a very successful football program up there at St. Bernard's, and now is a state champion as the girls basketball head coach as well. It's not too shabby. Not too bad at all for that little school up there. I know we don't cover them a lot, but congrats there to Coach Tomlin up there. Yep, former Piner Piner head coach for football, and I believe he was also an assistant at Windsor, I think, for a while too. So, guy with local ties. Always cool to see someone like that have success. So, definitely shout out to Coach Tomlin up there for sure. All right, quickly jumping over real quick to boys basketball. We had 2 teams that made pretty deep runs. Justin Siena and Napa Christian. Justin in Division 3 and Napa Christian in Division 6. Justin Siena was lost, or I think they were the 2 seed, I want to say, and they lost, I think, in the Division 3 regional semis to Bullard. That was too. Another crazy game that you were at too. And then Napa Christian, again, I think, they were like the 6th seed, I want to say, in Division 6. And so for Division 6, again, they only cap out at NorCal or, the regional playoffs, and they made it to the championship game and then lost to Cornerstone Christian, which I was watching that stream, and Cornerstone Christian should not be a Division 6 team. They looked comparable to like a Division 2, Division 3 team. I was like, holy cow, this is quite something. But the Justin Siena game though, you were at that game. You've had a string of pretty wild playoff games this year, Keenan.
Dude, it's the gym was absolutely packed.
Double overtime.
It was
free throws.
Justin Siena was down at 12-13 or something like that in the second half, battled back. And let me tell you, I'm kind of upset he's graduating because Dallas Logwood, the best name in all of the county, I mean, just hit the craziest like reverse layup I've ever seen. Like he was going reverse, but then carried it back over to his right side and to tie it, to send it to the first overtime, and then this double OT. I mean, um, yeah, that would that. Oh my gosh! I mean, Justin Siena. I mean, if they had won that game, they would have rematched Santa Cruz, who actually beat them in the regular season. And Santa Cruz, I believe, was the 1 seed in the bracket as well. Um, but I mean, golly, that yeah, we've had some good good games this year to say the least, Gus. And Justin Siena was just one of them. But hey, I mean, I mean, I know there was a good amount of people kind of not really doubting Justin Siena, but kind of wondering if they were going to be as strong as they normally were. And yeah, I mean, to make it to the D3 regional semis, that's definitely no small feat. Um, you know, but like you said, the competitive equity, it was the two versus, I think it was Bullard's, like this Bullard was the six or something like that. So like 4 spots,
Yeah, dude, 6.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was 4 spots separating them. So I mean, it gives us these gives us these crazy games. And shout out to Justin Siena head coach George Nesman, who I believe you announced is departing.
Yeah.
Um,
I
at
I
the
I I I didn't announce it. I just shared the news. But
Oh,
yeah,
you
no,
just shared the
yeah, yeah,
news.
yeah.
So sorry. Woj over here. I
Credit
thought you were
credit
Woj
to
for a second.
credit to Andrew Bentacord for breaking that news. That'd be athletic director down there, but
But he was he's been at the helm for the past 3 years, and they've
yeah.
always been a very strong program with Nesman at the helm. So, but yeah, Justin Siena, crazy game. I mean, Jaden Washington, one of the best players in the area. But then Nick Jeremaz had himself one heck of a game. He's slowly on the I mean, Jaden Washington it seems like obviously is their star player that gets all the attention, but once Jeremiah gets going, he gets going, and he certainly did his work against Bullard for sure. Just hitting a crazy three to bring him to within one, and send him to another OT. So, yeah,
Mm.
shout out to the Justin Siena boys on an amazing season.
Yeah, just really heartbreaking how it happened. I mean, again, if you're watching this, you probably know, but yeah, I mean, Justin Stan had a chance to win the game. I mean, after Bullard had missed 2 free throws with like two or 3 seconds
Yep.
left, and then they actually made it down the length of the court, but then they couldn't, or they just didn't get a shot off, before time expired. And the shot
Andrew,
they did get off, actually also of course went in, but of course it was after the buzzer. So
yeah,
um
it was a yeah. So yeah, Andrew Grimshaw, their point guard, who is a pass first point guard, and naturally, as you should be, you have all the talent around you. But Jaden Washington got the rebound off the second missed free throw with 4 seconds left. Grimshaw was dribbling up the court and was immediately looking for Jeremaz, who was, I mean, who is his who had his best defense played on him all night long, was just completely locked up. Grimshaw never looked at the clock with 4 seconds left, had crossed half the court with 1 second left, and then just got it off. I think it was like a quarter of a second late,
yeah, it's
and
brutal.
banked it in. But yeah, just never looked at the clock. Was looking for Jeremaz, and yeah, heartbreaker. But credit, but an amazing season nonetheless for Justin Siena.
No doubt. And yeah, I think with Nessman leaving, I mean, again, the last 3 years, Justin has made, they won the Division 4 NCS section title this year, and they went to, I mean, they made really deep runs the last 3 years, under Nessman, into the state playoffs. I mean, they made a state, title game a couple years ago. 2 appearances in the regional finals too. So just a really, really great kind of 3-year stretch. From I think that in their announcement of Nesman stepping down, they had I think they had said probably the most successful 3-year stint in school history, which is not that's saying quite a bit. So definitely some questions I think kind of going forward now just a bit with kind of one who steps into that role. I know that Nick Guillory, who was the assistant coach for a while at Justin, and he was the head coach over Casa Grande this year. He maybe he just does he go back? That could be an interesting interesting move, just because I know that, he was, I think hoping to kind of get that, that head coaching job a couple years ago. I mean, I think he was the guy who really led, Justin, I think 2 years ago when they made that really deep, or, their first deep run into the state playoffs. He was, I think he was the interim for most of that year. And then he took the Casa job because he, wanted a full-time gig. And now that, Justin is open again, does he kind of, look at that job being like, hey, maybe I could go back. But, I know he had some good success at Casa this year. So, and they were definitely building something. But Justin definitely has some lot of pieces to replace. I mean, Jeremias is graduating. Jaden Washington is graduating. Grimshaw is graduating. They just have a lot of these. Logwood's graduating. They have a lot of guys who, no, Logwood's only a junior, it says on the.
Oh, is he? Maybe he's not.
So either way though, it's, a lot of talent, a lot of key pieces to replace. So, but again, I think Justin is kind of in this position now too, where with all the success that they've had, they're now probably going to get kids who, want to come and experience that that same kind of success. I mean, success breeds more success. So, I mean, I think that they're in a good position to kind of thrive going forward. But yeah, we'll see. Definitely some big pieces to replace going forward into next year. But other team quickly we'll touch on, and we didn't cover them a whole lot, during the season, just because they're small school, just to like still within our coverage zone, but just not one of our bigger, I guess, stories to follow. But Napa Christian, who we've talked about quite a bit, they made it to the D6 championship game again, lost to Cornerstone Christian. But yeah, I mean, they had a great season as well. They made that really deep run, in the NCS Division 6 championship, same thing, but they lost to Cornerstone Christian. So just, again, I know that they, Napa Christian is one of these teams that they get a lot of kids going there who I think have hopes of going to Prolific Prep. Napa Christian is the school that Prolific Prep is associated with. So I think it's a bit of a feeder program kind of up there. So they definitely have some talented kids who, you might totally kind of be like, wait, they're playing at a small Christian school in Napa. And it's like, yeah. But no, I mean, definitely great, a good season for them. And yeah, I mean, don't quite know a whole lot else, of what to say, but they could be pretty good going forward too, if they, kind of keep getting in these guys who have a lot of potential. But then I'd say the other big story too, that, just again, kind of an unfortunate end and just an unfortunate draw for them was Montgomery. They had a pretty, what a lot of people kind of saw as being a relatively favorable draw in the first round, playing at Bellarmine, 12-5 matchup, Monty was the 12, but, Bellarmine was like a sub 500 team, hadn't been super impressive at points, but, they were good. They actually, after they beat Montgomery in the first round, they went off and they actually upset Bishop O'Dowd at Bishop O'Dowd too in the second round. So, credit to Bellarmine, I guess, for proving a lot of the doubters wrong. But yeah, I mean, again, just, Montgomery has kind of been this team that's been really fun to follow, kind of one of these like once in a decade kind of teams, a star player, a lot of good senior role players, big man inside, just like one of these like really kind of, I don't know, tight knit, like good classics, Sonoma County boys basketball teams. And I mean, just came up just short of the NCS Division 2 title against Benicia, heartbreaking game there, and then one and done in NorCal's. But just one of these seasons that they've just been a very fun team to follow. Just good kids all around, especially from a school that hasn't really, hasn't had a lot of fortune go its way, over the last couple of years, or the last year plus. But yeah, it was kind of good to see, good to see a team like Monty kind of, I guess, rise above all the noise that kind of is happening at at that school, and, kind of bring that school together a bit. So great season for Monty. Also, same thing, a lot of pieces to replace. Caden DeVries is graduating, Isaiah Wright graduating, Will Graff, Bobby McGovern, you name it. I mean, most of their starters are gone. So really special season for them. But yeah, definitely some questions going forward for that team as well. But Keenan, anything else on boys basketball here? But before we kind of move into the soccer, actually, hold on.
I was gonna say let's do rankings before.
Let's do the rankings, before we jump in there. Yeah, good idea.
So final basketball rankings here. A little bit of shuffling to finish out. To finish it out on the boys' side, number 1, Montgomery, 2, Justin Siena, 3, Cardinal Newman, American Canyon goes to 4, Petaluma 5, Ukiah 6, Maria Creo 7, and then on the bubble, Napa Christian gets on the bubble following their runner-up finish, like Gus just mentioned, in the D6 NorCal tournament. Piner and St. Vincent round out that bubble. Girls, let's see. Let's just go to the girls real quick. Girls, no surprise here at the 1-2 spot. Cardinal Newman, Carrillo still hold on to their top two spots, as I think they've done all year pretty much. Montgomery at the 3, Justin Siena at the 4, American Canyon 5, Sonoma Valley 6, and your Greyhounds rounded out the 7th spot. Healdsburg takes the 7th spot. On the bubble, you got Annalie Casagrande and the Cloverdale girls team as well, who had a pretty solid season. So those are the final rankings until next year, Gus, for boys and girls hoops. They are locked in. So congratulations, I guess, Montgomery and Newman. You can call yourselves the top-ranked team from the Press Democrat for another year. So, yep, those are our final rankings, Gus.
Yeah, I mean, the only big change is Justin Siena leapfrogs Newman at the 3-2 spot. I mean, it's kind of been Monty Newman kind of all year at the 1-2, but, after Newman got upset in the second round of NCS playoffs, and then Justin, made their deep run, winning the D4 title and then a deep run in the D3 NorCal playoffs, they deserve to, to move up a spot. And then Marie Carrillo, kind of one of the surprise teams, I'd say, this year. Not a team that I think a lot of people were expecting much out of. And a team that we probably didn't give as much respect as they probably deserved. They finished out the year. They actually finished 3rd in the NBL Oak, kind of quietly, behind Monty and Newman. I think a lot of people thought that Piner would probably be in there. Piner finished 4th. But yeah, Carrillo, beats Piner, kind of late in the season during league play, and then they come back and they actually beat them in the first round of the NCS playoffs too. To end their season and kind of keep their season rolling along. And I think that was Korea's first playoff win in a while too, if I'm recalling correctly. But yeah, definitely a team that again, hand up, I don't think we probably gave enough respect to, but yeah, I mean they definitely had a good year, and they have some good players coming back too. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how they develop in the coming years. But yeah, I mean, girls' side too, not a whole lot else I'd say to touch on. I mean, I think Monty and Justin Siena were kind of bouncing back and forth between the 3 and the 4 all year, and then same thing with American Canyon and Sonoma Valley. We played each other 4 times this year, which is pretty funny. American Canyon finally gets the edge though, because they knocked Sonoma Valley out of the NCS Division 3 playoffs in the semifinals, or quarterfinals, I think it was. So. I mean, that about sums it up for basketball this year. I mean, I think it was a pretty great year this year. I mean, there was I'd say there was a ton of parity, like on the girls' side, and I mean, boys' side, I think there was too, but I think there were a couple teams that really, obviously, I mean, always stand above the rest. But yeah, going forward though, I mean, like, stop me if you've heard this before, but Cardinal Newman looks really good on both ends. Like. Boys team, I think, graduates 2 seniors, but I don't think any of them are starters. And they bring back a ton of great players. Cardinal Newman, girls too. Tissa probably coming back, Kate Schott coming back, a lot of just, and then again, a lot of young players who are coming up who have a lot of, who got a lot of experience this year. So, yeah. And then like same thing, kind of, looking across the board, like Justin, big question mark, American Canyon, they're always competitive. I'd say, year in, year out. We'll see if that continues. And then Petaluma graduates a ton, so they might be in for a couple of rebuilding years. And then Ukiah could be actually, one of those better teams next year. On the boys' side, with Amari Phillips Porter coming back, they have some good JV players coming up.
Shout out Dwayne Nelson too. We forgot about that.
Yeah, I know, it's kind of crazy. So Dwayne Nelson, Ukiah's head coach, also retired. It's crazy. So between Dwayne Nelson, Piner head coach Mike Erickson, and then St. Vincent head coach Tom Bonfili, that was like Bonfili coached for 42 years, Erickson 33, and then Dwayne had coached for 30 / mid 30s to the low 40s. So that's like 100 years of coaching experience. That's
Crazy.
that's stepping away, after this year, around the area. And Dwayne kind of did most of his work, up at, smaller schools up in, like Laytonville and Upper Lake and Willits, and then, Ukiah for the last 8 years. But, kind of one of these unheralded guys who's, just dedicated his entire life to coaching. So, definitely a tip of the cap to Dwayne. He was always a fun guy to, his teams were always, talented and good, and just a, good guy to kind of interact with. And, he definitely, did it for the love of the game. So, definitely, a couple big figures who are stepping away from the game this year, which is definitely important, definitely sad, but go and live your lives, guys. I understand.
Yeah, seriously. Just go ahead. Do what you got to do.
Absolutely.
Gus, should we move on to finishing up boys soccer for the year here?
Let's do it. Yeah, a couple so I think we had five overall soccer teams, move on to NorCal. We had 3 teams on the boys side, 2 on the girls side. The 2 teams on the girls side, unfortunately, were both knocked out in the first round after great years. We'll say 2 Casa Grande girls got in as the at-large seed. I think it was that Division 2, I want to say. Had to hit the road, play at the 8th seed, lost. But again, a great season for them. Cardinal Newman girls 2, was that their second loss of the year because they lost in the championship.
Yeah, because they lost on PKs. Yeah,
that's right. And so they also had to hit the road, and they fell out in their first round game too. But again, hats off to them. Both great seasons. Newman, I think, has a ton of players coming back. I think they were super young this year. Was that right?
Yes and no. I mean, they do, obviously, but then again, their seniors are some of the better. I mean, their seniors are so good. Bella Hunter, Sophia Leitner, but they have a bunch of returners. So yeah, Casa Grande too, actually, I think.
All right, yeah. So I mean, again, either way, both teams have kind of been like, the cream of the crop around here as far as girls soccer teams go, and they were again this year. I'd say definitely, definitely the 2 best teams in the area, and they proved it during league play, no doubt. Just tough draws for them in the first round, and they their seasons come to an end. But same thing for the Maria Carrillo boys. They had a again a great run through the NCS Division 2 playoffs. Kind of a bit of a magical run. In their own right, upsetting the number 1 seed, Newark Memorial in PKs in the semifinals to make the NCS title game. And then same thing with them, tough draw, had to hit the road, tough first round loss for them. But we had 2 very exciting local teams to follow as well during NorCal playoffs, and that was Cardinal Newman and Ukiah, both the boys teams over there, who actually also ended up facing each other in the Division 3 semifinals, which was a really exciting game I was up there for. Newman went on to win, what was it? They won the Division 4 NCS title, right? And then Ukiah won the Division 3 NCS title. And for both those teams, it was the first titles for Ukiah, it was the first NCS title ever. For Newman, their Division 4 title was the first one since like 2005, I want to say, back when they were a fall team. And they both went on to have really successful runs throughout the playoffs. Ukiah, kind of their best season by all accounts in school history. They've kind of been a bit of a bottom dweller program for a while. And then Shane Huff over the last 6-7 years has really turned that program around. And totally. I mean, shoot, the last 3 years they've won, I want to say 30 some plus games when they had won maybe that many over the last 10 years. And then, NCS title for the first time ever, really kind of rallied the community around them as well. And then, for that game, for the Newman Ukiah game up in Ukiah, I was up in Ukiah twice actually 2 weeks ago. Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago now, which is kind of crazy, but I was up there for the first round game that Ukiah had, and then also the semifinal game. But Ukiah took care of Chico in the first game. I think it was like 4-0. They scored like 3 goals in the last like 10 minutes to like really put it away. And then Newman went on the road, had a big upset in the first round, and then traveled up to Ukiah again. I beat Ukiah. I believe it was 1-0 if I'm remembering correctly. I don't remember off the top of my head. It was a while ago now, but let me just do this bad podcasting here, but let me just double check that score. But what was it?
It's almost like a weekly
It was,
tradition now.
I know. It was 1-0. That's right. It was 1-0. It was, I believe it was a goal in like the 20th minute, scored by Nate Lubega, and that was it. And then funny enough, so they for their entire run through NorCal's, they were on the road. They were on the road in the first round at Hollister. They were on the road against Ukiah. And then for the championship game, which I also went down to in Fremont, they played Newark Memorial, which again was the team that Maria Carrillo beat in the Division II semifinals.
Was that the
very
PKs too, right? That was PKs.
Yeah. That was the PKs game in semifinals, and that was the only loss that Newark Memorial has had all year too. But that was an interesting experience covering that game because one, it was the first time that, well, one, it was in the middle of a massive rainstorm, and somehow we did not get rained on during the whole game, which was nuts. Two, it was a grass field, and it was the first time that Newman's played on a grass field this entire year, which is kind of a crazy thing to say, but like, yeah, I mean, they're almost 30, like 25 games into the season, and they still hadn't played on grass this year, but you know,
Different
most teams
ball
around here
game,
play
man.
turf. Yeah. And then the field itself, I've never seen, I mean, like I've seen some fields like this before, but like just a total turtle shell. Like you could, like when I was taking videos on the sidelines, it looked like I was shooting my videos uphill because of how oblong the field was. It was definitely an interesting place to have a game. But you know, again, as the number one seed, you know, Newark was, they earned the right to host. So, and then again, tough loss for Newman in that one. They got, and it was an own goal in the 64th minute, I want to say, that gave Newark the lead. And I mean, just a really competitive game. And I think it's definitely a game that's going to sit with Newman for a while. You know, I mean, again, same thing with them. They have a ton of young players coming back. They're really set up for a multi-year, very strong run here. And I would not be surprised if they're back at the section/NorCal level here, you know, next year easily. But yeah, this one's definitely going to sting for a while. But yeah, I mean, kind of the thing about bad losses in the playoffs is those things are, you know, that's kind of what fuels you too going forward to not want to feel that again. So yeah, great seasons for both those teams. I mean, couple teams that, you know, you and I have covered, you know, a couple times this year. And yeah, I mean, I think when it was all said and done, I think the 5 teams that were still left, you know, for soccer were, I think, the best teams in the area. And I think, yeah, I mean, I think it all played out how it should have.
Yeah, totally. I will say this though, before, as we wrap up our winter sports here, but you know, Cardinal Newman obviously had a fantastic season across the board, school wise, you know, in the winter. But you know, shout out Maria Carrillo. I mean, they girls basketball, boys basketball, boys soccer. You know, they also had 2 state placers in wrestling. You know, the only 2 state players. I mean, Maria Carrillo had a very successful winter sports season. I would say for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. I would absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'd say the big winners for sure of the winter sports season were Newman and Carrillo, and then also, you know, I mean, again, there were also teams like, Montgomery. I mean, you know, their boys team was, their boys basketball team, you know, had one of its best seasons in a while. Their girls basketball team was really good too. So, but yeah, I would definitely agree that Newman and Carrillo were the big winners, I'd say, for the winter sports season. But
Totally.
I mean, I think that kind of wraps it up as far as winter sports for us. I don't know, man. Any last kind of bits on winter sports? But yeah, I mean, I think with that we can kind of close the book and move on to spring sports at this point.
Yeah, we will be in the next couple weeks or so. We're going to be releasing our all Press Democrat winter sports teams and players of the year and stuff like that. So just be on the lookout. Probably going to be still at least a week or 2 or a couple weeks away. So just be on the lookout for that. But that'll be our last kind of winter sports content per se of the season. But anyways, let's head to spring, Gus. Baseball, softball, all the spring sports that are going on. You know, they've already been in session for a little bit now. But like you said, we kind of we had a long winter sports season. I guess this is good for us because, you know, fall sports with St. Vincent football went long, and now winter sports went long. So I guess it's good to kind of experience it of what happens when these things go long, right?
I know it's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem for us because it's like we have to cover like 5 sports at once, and then the transition between one and the other. And anyway, so it's
and the scheduling does not help us whatsoever either.
It's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem to have. So
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, let's I think real quick we're just gonna wrap up here a little bit with some kind of early outlook for spring sports. Baseball and softball have gotten underway. They've been playing for a couple weeks now. Weather permitting. I know it's been this is finally the first couple days of sunshine and no rain. In the last couple of weeks, but most teams will have 2, 3, 4, 5 games in at this point. A couple of teams are already kind of starting to separate themselves from the pack a bit. I don't think it's any surprises, but we always we thought that Newman and Casa Grande were probably going to be the top 2 baseball teams in the area, and so far it's looking like that's going to be the case again. This year, Newman obviously coming off of their best season in a long time. Last year they made that great run in NorCal playoffs. They won the Division 3, I think NCS title for the second straight year, I want to say. Last year, again, graduated a ton of talent, but they always, this is the kind of program that they are now, where they're just, they kind of just keep churning out winners. Kind of same thing, this year so far. They had a tough loss in their season opener against Valley Christian, although Valley Christian is a top 10 team in the state. And then since then, they've rattled off 3 pretty convincing wins, beating, Liberty Brentwood, the 9-0, Clayton Valley Charter 8-3, and then Oak Ridge 10-0 over the weekend. All 3 very quality teams, and Newman's really kind of taken care of them pretty easily, I'd say, over the last couple of weeks. So I'll be going to check them out tomorrow. Is that March 14th? They're hosting Berkeley, who's undefeated right now. I'll kind of get my first look at them this year, but I definitely expect Newman to kind of be up there towards the top baseball teams in the area, and I expect Casa Grande to be up there as well. Casa is making the move up to Division 1 this year. They won was it the NCS Division 2 title last year, and they were a runner up, I think, in the NorCal Division 2 playoffs.
They lost to St. Ignatius.
St. Ignatius, that's right, in the championship game. I think they returned like something like 8 or 9 starters, including Austin Steves. He's the left-handed pitcher, Stanford signee. He was named the California Pitcher of the Year by several outlets. Guy is a stud. We have heard, unfortunately, that he might be a little bit banged up to start the year. We're not quite sure kind of on the severity of it, but I don't think he's pitched yet this year, so we'll kind of keep an eye on that going forward. But Casa is one of these teams that I do think, again, if they are fully healthy, I think they're probably, they should be in conversation as one of the top teams in the NCS, and if not, maybe in contention as a top 30, top 40 team in the state as well. So again, fingers crossed on some of those injuries that I think we've heard a little bit about, but again, if they're fully healthy, I think that they could really do some damage this year. And we'll kind of be able to look and compare Newman and Casa this year at some point too, because April 20th, Newman is going to be playing at Casa Grande, a game that anybody who's a fan of high school baseball around here in Sonoma County should circle, because that's, again, some of the best players in the county are going to be playing in that game. So should be a fun one to go and check out. But Kienan, any kind of early season observations from baseball that you wanted to kind of point out at this point?
No, I don't think so. It'll be interesting, to see how all the leagues shake out. Petaluma's playing pretty well. They have some good players as well. Obviously, they lost their stud pitcher Aaron DeVanis, who is now at Cal Berkeley. But they have some great players. Sonoma Valley. Sonoma Valley's got some great players as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how the leagues shake out. Windsor, under the new head coach, I think it's what's his name, Bill Carrata, right?
Bill Carrata, yeah.
Yeah, Bill Carrata, taking the helm for the first year. Windsor gave Newman its only league loss last year, I'm pretty sure. So seeing how the NBL Oak's going to shake out. So it should be another exciting season for baseball. And softball's kind of looking the same way. Obviously, we're talking about the top 2 teams in baseball. You could kind of somewhat say in a way that 2 of the top teams in softball are also Casa Grande and Cardinal Newman.
Yeah.
I was at that game a week or two ago. You know, Casa Grande played Cardinal Newman already, second game of the season. For opening day for Newman, second game of the season for Casa, and Casa won 11-1.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, Casa Grande returns a ton of players last year. Obviously, they lost player of the year last year, Jamie McGahee, who is now at the University of Hawaii, but they bring back Kansas commit Lila Partridge, who was our pitcher of the year last year. Georgia Moss is probably the best number 2 pitcher in the area. Abby McSweeney behind the plate, she's really come into her own. Marissa Brody, I mean, all this talent that the Gauchos have could easily make a huge run. Plus, they already exacted their revenge on the team that knocked them out last year, Willow Glen. They beat them 3-2 as well. So Casa Grande looking really good. Newman as well. Callie Howard, who was a finalist for our pitcher of the year last year. She had over 150 strikeouts last year. She's back. She's good. Newman does have a little bit of a hit with Jordan Johnson, who was out for the season, I believe. She hurt her ACL during basketball season, but she's going to be a huge loss for them. She was playing for Team USA for a while as well. So she was one of the best up and coming softball players in the area. And Newman was the D4 NCS champion last year too. So Casa Grande and Newman are still looking possibly like the top 2. Obviously, Vintage is still going to be up there. You know, Petaluma's scrappy.
There's a couple teams so far that have looked pretty good. I mean, Rancho kind of had a down year. Had a down year last year, but I think that they should be pretty good again this year. And then some of the smaller teams too, like St. Helena, is off to a really good start.
Totally.
They have a win over, I believe they have a win over Montgomery and over Windsor, you know, larger schools, you know, for a small school like, you know, St. Helena in Division 5. And then like Sonoma Valley is putting up a ton of runs to start out the year so far. So, yeah, I mean, to your point, I think it is going to be Casa Grande, and Casa Grande was also named, I think like the number 29 team in the state, I think, in Cal High Sports most recent rankings, you know, the other day. So Casa for sure right now, I think, is at the head of the pack. But I do think that there are a lot of teams that will have very, very good seasons just kind of based on, you know, some of these early season returns. And yes, for sure, some teams that, you know, that could make some noise at the NCS level too. But to that state ranking point too, I should also mention too that the Cardinal Newman baseball was ranked number 15 in the state by Cal High Sports in their rankings earlier this week too. So in the eyes of the experts, it's Cardinal Newman baseball, and then Casa Grande softball is kind of the 2 top teams around here, and I think that we would agree. So something to note too. You know, you mentioned you know, Lila Partridge, but some of her numbers to start the year are crazy.
Oh, they're ridiculous.
So she committed to Kansas. I want to say over the off season. She's only a junior, and her sophomore year was incredible. I mean, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I mean, like 2A star.
She was our pitcher of the year for a reason last year.
Yeah,
I mean,
and there was some really, really good, you know, good competition, and honestly, she had a very legit case as our overall player of the year too. But you know, Jamie McGahee as a you know, as a senior, you know, we kind of thought, all right, you know, we should, you know, probably should honor, you know, the senior, who also again had a great season in her own right. But Lila, to start the year, so in 3 games so far, she is 11 for 12 batting. That is a .917 batting average with 3 doubles and 7 RBIs, and then she's also 3-0 pitching wise, and in 14 innings she's allowed, you know, 14 hits, but only 2 earned runs, and she struck out 22 over that span too. So,
and she's known for her pitching too. So the batting stats would make it even more crazy.
She is. And again, so their wins. So they beat Justin Siena 22-1. They beat Newman 11-1, which I think was a bit of like a holy cow. Okay, Casa is very, very good this year. And then beating Willow Glen too, the team that, you know, that knocked them out in NorCal playoffs last year. Definitely feels good. But yeah, I mean, that's 3 pretty impressive wins to open the year. And yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of see how they progress going, you know, throughout the season, because not only are they talented, they're also deep. I mean, you know, you rattled off a bunch of those names, but they have, you know, batters up and down the lineup, you know, who can hit. They have some, you know, great arms, you know, along with Lila. So it should be very fun to watch Casa Grande softball. I mean, I don't think we've seen a softball team like this from around this area in a while. So we'll be very excited and kind of see how they progress throughout the year.
Yeah, totally. And you know, just looking at all the, I mean, you're looking at all the returning players just on different teams. You know, Alex Schmetzel from Rancho Cotati, Mia Avila from Windsor. You know,
Mhm.
we are blessed with a lot of good baseball and softball players in this area. Obviously, Gus just did an amazing piece on you know kind of where are they at now with all the local baseball players that have moved on to the major league to Major League Baseball, and there's there and spoiler, there's a good amount of them. Yeah, we're pretty blessed on the baseball diamond and the softball field for sure in this area.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, again, this is, I mean, football is always fun. Winter sports and basketball and soccer are always fun. But I mean, I think when it starts to get sunny here around March and April, and the baseball and softball season, really get going. I think this is kind of where, a lot of people are really excited about. I mean, just this time of the year, as far as the talent that we produce, and how far how far some of these kids go to outside, after high school and everything as well. So um anyway, uh Keenan, I think that's about it for our pod this week. That was actually, I feel like, pretty tidy. I mean, anything else that you wanted
No,
to
what's
kind of clean up on? I mean, I think in the coming weeks here, I think we're going to probably continue the pod, I think, throughout the spring season, focusing mostly on baseball and softball, just because, again, those are kind of, the two big, sports around here that, this time of year. But I mean, going through the list, I mean, there's a ton of stuff going on. I mean, track and field season is getting up and going. Boys volleyball is now a new sport that's getting up and going here in the NBL. We're trying to work on our lacrosse coverage a little bit. We're working a bit on trying to seeing how we can improve in that regard. But boys golf, boys tennis, I know that's kind of your area of expertise as
swimming?
well. Swimming as well. So I mean, again, spring sports is always a crazy time of year, and I'm already thinking about May and just
Gus is already
the
thinking about what time he can get on the golf course.
yeah, I know. Now that we have daylight savings back here, I'm like, Twilights are
Yes,
back, baby. So we're good to go. But
exactly.
no, I mean, we have again a lot of stuff coming your way though over the next couple weeks and months here, as we kind of a mad dash here to the end of the high school sports season. But yeah, less than 3 months now until we're all wrapped up, which is kind of crazy to think. But um, yeah, Keenan, yeah, good pod, good winter season. Looking forward to spring. Any last thoughts?
No, I think you got it. We're now we just keep chugging along, Gus. That's what we do. We make it work. So yeah, good luck, obviously, to all the athletes and sports teams this season. We're excited to cover you guys as always and get things rolling, and excited to see where our teams take us, and where our athletes take us as well. So um, with that, we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thank you guys so much for viewing, watching, however you consume this content, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Yep. See you in 2 weeks, everyone.